Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about the Russian sleep experiment. My name is Agent J.A., and this is Chronicles of the Explained and Unexplained. This is one of the creepiest stories I've researched, but I will let you all decide. Days 1 to 5, the baseline. The facility was buried 3 levels beneath a decommissioned industrial complex in the Urals. No windows, no external comms. Just a reinforced steel chamber, 18 feet by 20, lined with acoustic dampening foam, and fitted with 5-inch thick glass portholes. Microphones were hardwired into the ceiling. No cameras existed yet. The researchers relied on audio logs, oxygen telemetry, and handwritten observation notes. 5 subjects, all political dissidents. All promised immediate release and expunged records if they completed 30 days without sleep. The stimulant gas was a classified neuroagonist, toxic above 8% concentration, administered at 6.1%, kept them awake, kept them alert, kept them metabolically elevated. For the first 5 days, compliance was absolute. They read the provided books, exercised in synchronized routines, ate their rations on schedule. Conversations were monitored, transcribed, and filed. But on day 4, the researchers noticed an anomaly. The subjects weren't discussing their pasts. They were discussing asterisk dreams they hadn't had yet, specific recurring imagery, falling through black water, a door that wouldn't close, a voice that sounded like their own but older. Exhausted. The lead psychologist noted it as anticipatory stress manifestation. He was wrong. On day 5, they stopped using the cots. They sat in perfect geometric alignment along the eastern wall, back straight, eyes fixed on the one-way glass. They didn't blink as often. Their breathing synchronized. The oxygen meters showed a 12% increase in consumption, normal for mild exertion, not for sitting still. The researchers logged it, moved on. They were watching for breakdown, not patterns. Days 6 to 9. The fracture, the tone shifted overnight. Conversations grew fragmented. Subjects began referring to themselves in the third person. He remembers the cellar. He remembers the cold. He knows what's waiting when the eyes shut. Paranoia set in by day 7. They stopped speaking to each other entirely. Instead, they leaned into the microphones, whispering, not to the researchers, to the glass. They believed the observation room wasn't separate, that the walls were hollow, that someone was breathing on the other side. They tried to bargain, offering information, names, locations, each trying to trade the others for their own release. The researchers assumed it was gas-induced psychosis. They adjusted ventilation, increased fresh air exchange. The whispering didn't stop. It multiplied. On day 9, Subject 3 stood, walked to the center of the room, looked up at the ceiling vent, and screamed. It wasn't a scream of panic, it was a scream of recognition. He ran the length of the chamber, voice shredding against steel and glass, 3 hours straight, until his vocal cords tore, until all that came out were wet, breathless squeaks. The other 4 didn't react. They kept whispering, until Subject 1 stood, then Subject 2, then the remaining 2. They took the books, tore the pages, mixed the paper with their own feces, urine, and dried sweat, and systematically pasted the slurry over the glass portholes, not to hide, to block a signal. The researchers realized it later. The pattern wasn't random. It was a frequency dampener, a crude acoustic seal. The screaming stopped, the whispering stopped, the chamber went silent for 3 days. The microphones picked up nothing, but the oxygen meters told a different story. Consumption spiked to 340% of baseline, equivalent to 5 people sprinting, fighting, exerting maximum metabolic output, continuously, for 72 hours. The researchers checked the mics hourly, tapped the diaphragms, ran diagnostic pulses. Nothing, just silence. An impossible biology. Days 10 to 14. The contradiction. On the morning of day 14, the lead researcher broke protocol. He keyed the intercom. "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones." Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor. Compliance will earn one of you immediate freedom. Silence. Then a calm voice, not one, all of them, speaking in unison. No panic, no exhaustion, just certainty. We no longer want to be freed, the observation room erupted. Military handlers demanded immediate termination. Psychologists argued for extended observation. The gas was still working. The subjects were alive, but something had shifted. They weren't refusing freedom out of defiance. They were refusing it out of terror. What happens when they sleep? The question hung in the room, unanswered, unrecorded, at 23 o'clock hours, day 15. The order was given. Open the chamber. Day 15. The breach. The stimulant gas was flushed. Fresh air pumped in at maximum pressure. Within 4 seconds, the microphones came alive. 3 different voices, begging not for water, not for food. For the gas, turn it back on, please, keep us awake. The hydraulic locks disengaged. The door hissed open. 6 armed personnel stepped inside. They screamed before they saw anything. The chamber was untouched. Food rations stacked neatly, cots aligned, running water dripping into a floor drain. But the drain was clogged, choked with torn flesh, muscle, sinew. 4 inches of fluid pooled on the floor, condensation mixed with blood. Something else, something that smelled like copper and old rain. 4 of the 5 were still alive. Alive was a clinical courtesy. Large portions of skin and muscle had been torn from their torsos, arms, and legs. The wounds on their fingertips indicated they hadn't used teeth. They'd used their hands. Pulled, ripped, stripped tissue down to fascia and bone. Self-inflicted. Every single one. Their abdominal cavities were open, not from trauma, from procedure. Organs had been carefully removed, not discarded. Arranged, fanning out across the floor like a biological diagram. Heart, lungs, diaphragm, intact, still functioning. The digestive tract was visible. Peristalsis continued. They were digesting, not food, their own tissue. The soldiers moved to extract them. The subjects fought, not with strategy, with absolute primal resistance. One soldier's throat was torn out, another's femoral artery severed by teeth. 3 more were injured. 1 subject bled out on the floor, injected with 10 times the clinical dose of a morphine derivative. Still moved, still fought. His heart beat for 2 minutes after vascular collapse. After it stopped, he kept screaming, repeating one word, more. The surgery, the rejection of sleep. The 3 survivors were restrained, sedated, transported to the facility's surgical wing. The researchers asked one question. Asterisk, why did you do this to yourselves? Asterisk, only one answer was ever given. I must remain awake. Subject 1 fought the sedative. Tore through 4-inch leather restraints. Broke 3 ribs and a clavicle from the sheer force of his own muscle contractions. When the anesthetic gas finally touched his lungs, his heart stopped, instantly. Autopsy revealed blood oxygen levels at 312%. His nervous system wasn't failing. It was rejecting unconsciousness. Subject 2 had destroyed his vocal cords, couldn't speak, couldn't beg. When brought to the operating table, he shook his head violently at the anesthetic mask, shook it once, firmly, then nodded when the surgeon asked if they should proceed without it. 6 hours, no sedation, no pain blockers. He felt every incision, every retraction, every suture. The lead surgeon stated on record, asterisk, medically impossible. The body should have gone into shock. It didn't. Asterisk, a nurse later reported that whenever his eyes met hers, his mouth curled into a smile. Not madness, recognition. When the surgery ended, he wheezed, struggled. They gave him a pen. He wrote 2 words, keep cutting. Subject 3 was paralyzed for the procedure. He laughed through the entire operation, not hysterically, quietly, consistently. When the paralytic wore off, he tested his bonds, found them secure, looked at the ceiling, spoke clearly, I must remain awake. The final hours, all three were returned to the chamber. Restraints padded, EEG leads attached. Monitors calibrated. The military commander overruled medical objections. He wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The moment the order was given, the subjects stopped fighting. They were exhausted, but they were fighting sleep harder than they'd ever fought captivity. Subject 1 hummed a continuous low-frequency tone. Subject 2 strained his legs against the leather, left, then right, then left again, rhythmic, focused. Subject 3 held his head off the cot, blinked rapidly, forced his eyelids open. Again and again, the EEG monitor told the real story. His brainwaves weren't just erratic. They were flatlining in cycles, dying, rebooting, dying, rebooting, like his mind was short-circuiting, like sleep wasn't rest. It was a threshold, and something was waiting on the other side. One nurse saw it happen. His eyes slipped shut, his head hit the pillow, his brainwaves flatlined, his heart followed. 3 seconds. Gone. Subject 1 started screaming. To be sealed in. Now, his EEG showed the same flatline cycles, accelerating. The commander gave the order, seal the chamber, with both subjects inside. And 3 researchers, one of those researchers drew his sidearm, shot the commander between the eyes, turned, shot the mute subject in the head, stepped back, pointed the barrel at the last man, still restrained, still breathing, still fighting sleep. I won't be locked in here with these things, not with you. What are you? I must know. The subject smiled, not a monster's smile, a mirror's. Have you forgotten so easily? He asked, voice calm, clear. We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis. When you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread, the researcher paused, aimed at the subject's heart, fired, the EE flatlined. The subject weakly choked out, breath fading into the hum of the monitor, so nearly free, and then the experiment was terminated due to what had just happened, which scared the nurses and no longer wanted to continue with the experiment. So is this a true story or just a hoax? I truly believe this really happened. I have done plenty of research on this subject and it still continues to spark my interest. That's why I decided to make this video, but I will let you all decide if you think this is real or not. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. This is Agent J.A. and this is Chronicles of the Explained and Unexplained. Thanks for watching and hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did. Remember to always keep your mind open.